One thing I wanted to highlight was there's over 100 organisations involved in today, either here, if mostly here. There is even more that couldn't make it wanted to. We could have filled this room twice over in the end with the number of people who wanted to come. I think that's really positive. I think that shows a sector that is actually quite vibrant, is interested, is engaged, and wants to see progress and development made. And I think that's really positive. And we're just thrilled that the NYA is a part of that. We're a cog in the system. We're part of that system in taking it forward. I've got 20 minutes or so just to talk you through some initiatives and things that the NYA has been working on that are sort of side to the inquiry's findings. I will just say, if you haven't picked up a copy of the report, there are some over on the table over there. Do grab one before you go, but strictly one each. I can see people taking 3, and one for my colleague, and there aren't enough of. We've only had 200 printed, and I need a few for other things. So please just take one each. I know what youth workers are like. If it was stationary, they'd be cleared out. Everyone's nodding. Yeah. There's a reason the NYA doesn't have post-it notes, because they just get wiped out in a session in an instant. We are expecting John MacDonald, Shadow Chancellor, and he will pop in at some point after PMQs. So if he arrives halfway through my speech and presentation, I shall stop and we'll give him the floor. He's going to talk for five or so minutes. There may be opportunity for questions, and he'll run away again. Busy chap, but we're really, we were keen that we had our own minister coming. Unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition, but really grateful to Helen for this morning's input. And we wanted to give the opposition the opportunity to come and present as well from a cabinet point of view. I talked this morning very briefly, because we started late. I kind of got up all through my bit this morning. But the NYA, my motto is. The motto I've adopted, actually. I don't own this motto. Jill, who's in the front row here, who chairs our ETS Education Training Standards Committee, on a phone call to me said, Leigh, the NYA's job is to provide leadership, but through learning what the sector needs, what the sector's doing, and that's I've adopted that wholeheartedly. So thank you, Jill. You're going to hear from Jill in a little while. And so today, and the purpose we invested time in the inquiry, that we're investing in other things that I'm about to talk about, is because we want to listen, we want to learn and respond to what the sector needs and what the sector wants from the NYA. I think there's a few things just to highlight. The National Youth Agency, since 2010, receives no central or local government funding whatsoever. We've always been a charity, but we're entirely self-funded through grants and trading and do bits and pieces. And so it's difficult to do what we used to do 10 years ago. And the world expects the NYA often to be doing a lot of the things we might have done before. Maybe in a different way, in a different context, but there is certainly that expectation. And at one level that's not practical, but actually I think we're punching well above our weight, and we're working really hard to drive that forward. Just to put that into context, since that funding ceased, our calculations are that we've invested £1 million in the sector's development. This is money that we've raised through doing other programmes, and the profit margins from that get funneled into doing this. And it's not straightforward, but in that time, keeping the youth sector going and alive and vibrant is our kind of what we exist to do, and it's what gets us out of bed in the morning. And we know we need to be continually investing more. And we heard lots of things this morning about investing in sector skills and competencies and strengths rather than deficits. Completely and utterly agree. And we're keen to work with everybody and anybody that we can. There's nothing the NYA does on its own. I've racked my brains, and I've been with the NYA now 15 months, and I've gone through everything. And there's not a single bit of work, initiative that we do sat on our own. Everything we do with you, with the sector. But I think it's helpful to highlight that we've made that level of investment, but that's really, really difficult, and it's getting much, much tougher to sustain. And we'll need everyone's help to keep that going. Last year, actually the beginning of this year, we developed a new strategy for the NYA, and we went back to our roots in some regards. So the NYA was created in 1964, result of the Albemarle report, which is why I kind of touched on it this morning, to be a national body to lead the sector around workforce, around standards, around skills and networking. And so the mission of the NYA is to sort of transform the lives of young people through the power of youth work. I think our thinking's changing around that, and that's it. Young people transform their own lives. Youth workers enable young people to do that transformation. So I think we might change that next year, but it's certainly around. That's why we exist. This was the mission of the NYA at the beginning, right back in those days, and we've gone right back to it. We have 4 strategic objectives. I'm not going to go through them all, but the top 2 around developing a skilled and effective sector workforce is certainly a large area of focus. And the stuff you've seen this morning and today's event is the yellow section around influencing practice and policy through practice, through policy and research. And we've invested time and our energies in doing so, and we will continue to do so. The logos around the outside I'm going to take you through in a bit more detail. So there's a few things that I'm really proud of my colleagues and the team at NYA that we're able to talk about for the first time. And the first one is that we are developing a Youth Work Academy. We've heard lots about skills and competencies of youth work and how we train youth workers, yes, at that academic degree level, but also at that very grassroots level, investing in apprenticeships, investing in training and development, CPD, management and leadership, you name it. We are regularly asked by the sector for support and assistance around these areas. And so today I'm able to launch the NYA's Youth Work Academy, and this is our offer and way of working with the youth sector in partnership to strengthen the workforce for the future. Now, I said at the beginning, we don't do anything in isolation, and a big part of this is about investing in some of our partners around the country and our training providers and our awarding bodies and ultimately through to our HEI and university partners and enabling more people to become youth work practitioners. We've got these 4 goals: driving skills development across the youth work sector, making training accessible and cost effective. The NYA has managed to get itself registered as a ESFA accessing organisation. That's really boring, but when I was in local government, ESFA funds your colleges, it funds your sixth form, and it enables us to potentially draw down government funding for some learners to subsidise the cost of training. And what we've heard over the last couple of years is there are lots of people who want to be trained, but there's not enough in any one location often to get a cohort or a group together to make a course viable. And what we want to do through the academy is to join those groups up, because everyone rings us and says, "Oh, I'm in here, and we've got 3 here and 2 there and 1 over there," and we're able to bring them together, and then we will commission a local provider to deliver that training, and the NYA will work to facilitate that. We want to create a community of collaborative learning opportunities building on existing sector capacity. In the last week I've been asked about guns and violence, street crime, county lines, CSE, you name it. We get asked for development opportunities on it. And there are organisations who are already offering this sort of practice development who are really good at it. But what the NYA can do is use its scale and its reach to bring those opportunities forward. So we hope to work with some of those training providers to make those courses more available and actually tailor that content to youth work practitioners. And then to create a culture of learning that is responsive to the needs of young people and the wider society. The world is changing at 90 miles an hour. If you just have to look at the world of digital, the needs of local government, of charitable sector, of young people are changing constantly. And it's really important that youth work practitioners are equipped and skilled to go with that. And one thing in our surveys that we do, we hear a lot, is how youth workers do or don't use digital. And I've certainly run youth service where I've got some colleagues in the room from my old service where we gave them all iPads and asked them to record what they do. And it was like pulling teeth sometimes. I'm not going to pick on my colleagues, but actually, how do we equip the sector to get more digital? I've been talking to Finland, where actually in Finland, because of the rural nature of the mountains and people living out in the middle of nowhere, that actually they've developed virtual youth centres where young people get virtual VR goggles, and you're actually logged into a youth centre, you're on your sofa, but you're there, you're interacting with other young people who might be 300 miles away. And there's a youth worker, and you can go into one room, and you can have a verbal voice conversation. How is the youth sector getting with that kind of stuff? And the stuff that interests us. So we want to improve access to training development opportunities. We want to be sharing that knowledge. We lead leadership through learning. So by engaging with practitioners, by listening to the issues that come out from the opportunities that we are involved in and we create, we use that learning to inform future skills. And one of the big bits we do is, because we support the role of the ETS in terms of setting standards of qualifications, we're able to listen to what the changing needs are, and then we aim to sort of feed that into how future programmes are built and developed. And then facilitating that work to go forward. So the Academy is, it's real, it's live, it's got a log on, we've got a website, we've got an e-learning system, and we're aiming to bring more programmes to the sector over the next probably 3 to 6 months. But it is working with you, so do tell us what you need, do tell us why you need it, and then our goal will be to try and assist in supporting with that. We've got no resource, no one's given us any money to develop this, we just see it as an absolutely vital component in upskilling the youth work sector from the bottom up, and less so the top down. So that's the first point around the Youth Work Academy. The second area of focus I alluded to in our strategy was around how we use policy and research to influence practice. And one of the reasons when we were asked about the APPG inquiry, and I must say we were really, really grateful to the permanent secretariat of the APPG, YMCA England and Wales and the British Youth Council, who very welcomingly allowed the NYA to come a step forward and to lead that process and to drive that, enabling us to do that. And as I say, we don't do anything on our own, we do everything in partnership. But how we lead through research is a really interesting area. And as an organisation that validates youth work degree courses and then master's courses up and down the country, we know there's a very rich set of academic skills in England and beyond, United Kingdom and even internationally. And how do we leverage that knowledge, that thinking, that capacity to inform the future of youth work practice, the future of government policy, the future of developments within the sector? And we see lots of, frankly, fantastic stuff going on out in the real world by our, particularly our university colleagues. But we want to create a greater audience for that work. We want to join that work together, and we want to make bigger bids for more funding to do greater longitudinal studies, because the one thing I think is fun, personally, it's in my view, not the NYA's, I guess, but personally, we desperately need some more longitudinal research into youth work. Children's Society has been running, long-term research projects for 30 odd years. The youth work world doesn't have that, and we need to try to have that conversation with the Treasury or whatever about how the impact and benefit of youth work. Then we need more of that kind of academic underpinning. So we're able to announce today we're working with PALAQ, the Professional Association of Lecturers in Youth and Community Work, who have sort of been our supporters and scrutineers of this, to develop how we use that research to inform practice and how we can leverage more funding into the youth sector. If you go into the social care world, there are millions and millions and millions of pounds being spent on researching the impact of social work, the harm, all those sorts of things. We talk about some of it here, actually. And we're really keen that youth work starts to get a bit of a slice of that. And we will be working together to lead that with the sector. So if you're interested in the Research Hub or the Youth Work Academy, please get in touch after the event. In your packs, so there is a sort of there's a sheet on each of those. There's more detail than that we'll be following on our website in the next week or two. So do keep up. Another area that we really focus on is around quality and understanding what quality looks like. And we have a quality mark. We've always had a quality mark for 10 years, but we recognise that I'll call it the current quality mark, is 12 standards and is complicated and wordy and comes from Ofsted. And we have Ofsted on our board, so we work very closely with our Ofsted colleagues, but actually what the sector needs is a more agile and slightly different product. So we've completely rewritten it. We worked with our colleagues from Ofsted, or ex-colleagues from Ofsted, and we've worked with a number of partner organisations across voluntary sector, local government, who have sort of helped scrutinise this. We've tested it, and at the end of next month, the end of November, we will formally launch the new NYA quality mark. It is stripped back to 3 core principles, and our view is that we need to make a difference to young people's personal social development. Isn't that what youth work's all about? That's what it is. And actually, if you have quality youth work practice and it's well led and managed, then you can achieve the impact on young people. The previous quality mark asked if you got your, if you got your policies, is your insurance up to date and things like that. And I think we'll leave that for others to worry about. But actually, we're stripping it back to practice. And what our quality mark is now all about is about improving the practice of practitioners and the awareness of others of that practice and trying to champion quality. So we applied this only last week, the week before, in a city council, I won't name who, and we did a full day's assessment with them, and it's proven to be a really valuable tool in understanding the difference that team is making. The new quality mark is also in 3 layers, so you could do a foundation level, you could do the advanced level, or you can do an outstanding level. And when we were designing it, the team came back and the outstanding level was missing. And I was like, well, if John McDonnell's going to walk in here in a minute and if he ever's in power and is going to create the government, the youth service that has been talked about, I want them to be outstanding. I want them to aim for an outstandingly funded service. So we've added that in, and we will always drive those standards to the highest level. So if you're interested in understanding the quality of your work, the quality of your practice, then get in touch and we'll send this through to you as soon as it's available. There are other quality marks out there, and we're not here to, I'm not here to say, as this is not a sales pitch. There are other quality marks from Ambition, now UK Youth, and there's others, London Youth, etc. And they're great, and they've got their place. This is a different product positioned very differently to drive improvements around your thinking around practice. One of the things that we've been working on at the NYA is the current quality mark you have to pay for, and nobody buys it. So what's the point of charging? So a lot of our products, Hereby Right, the new Hereby Right, the new quality mark, are free of charge. You can go to our website, you can download them, you can access them. And if you just use them, if practitioners just use them, if managers just use them, funders, as a self-assessment tool, just to have a think about what you're doing, we've done our job as a national body to help improve the system. If it's valuable to have the formal accreditation, well then, there's a slight fee for that, and that's really valuable. And the City Council we were at last week, we're talking very much about how their members value that accreditation, and that accreditation is keeping their funding flowing. That happens. We've seen that. I've seen that in my professional practice. So you'll be able to access these revised tools via the NYA Network, which I shall come on to. Another area that the NYA is getting involved in is around what does the future of international youth work look like, and how should Erasmus Plus coming to an end in 2020. We don't know what's going to happen next. Brexit's getting in the way. There's some quite positive stories from government around trying to retain the current spend, but we don't know what that's going to look like. And so we've been partnering with the Centre for International Learning and Leadership, otherwise known as Momentum World, or was part of Momentum World, around developing some thinking for government around what international youth work should look like. Now, if you take a photograph of this QR code, it will send you to a SurveyMonkey 20-question survey, which we would love you all to fill in and feedback. We've ran some big workshops in our London hub with lots of sector organisations. What's really great about this is the DCMS colleagues came to us and said, a couple of weeks ago, and said, we really need you to get on with this because our thinking is moving on, but we need your help to shape what the future might look like. So you'll get these slides after the event, but if you want to take a photograph and use that QR code, please do. How am I doing for time? Running out is the answer. One of the other areas that we've been focused on is around a youth covenant. Hopefully, some of you have heard about this. We've been ramping up the noise about this. Essentially, there isn't. We know there's no government strategy or policy around young people. There's no direct government policy for young people. We can sit and we can say it's not good enough. Why haven't you got one? You should develop one. And I'm not sure that's going to change. And I'm not sure that's going to move the needle in a hurry at the moment. There's definitely a lot more interest in young people, as Helen talked about earlier, and we're certainly seeing a lot more traction and a lot more interest, and I'm very grateful to our colleagues across government who are working with us around that. But a youth covenant is simply a promise from an organisation. It could be your council, it could be your voluntary sector organisation, your hospital, whatever, around we value young people and we want them to be treated safely and securely and equip them for the modern world. This is part one of a journey for us. Well, actually, it's part two. The APPG was around let's do a fresh review of the system, let's understand the current context, and let's gather that evidence together and come up with a government cross-party supported document. Part 2 was, is there appetite to develop a larger, wider policy? And if there is, great. So far, this has gone down really well. And if there's that appetite, well, then we'll go and talk to other funders and other partners, and we'll work with, we're already working with partners on this around a broader, more industrious youth strategy. Actually, we could write as a sector and present as our suggestion. And I've certainly been steered in that direction by a range of colleagues and MPs. We were absolutely thrilled. I mean, dancing around the room when at the Conservative Party conference, the Secretary of State for Education, Damien Hines, came and opened the Youth Zone officially with us, and I was chairing that session, and we had this on the screen, and he said, "This is outstanding. I fully support it." And then, if you look at his main speech to the whole party, some of the key wording in the covenant was cut and pasted into his speech. So we were quite happy with that. To get Secretary of State for Education saying this is really positive was fantastic. There's more to do, but this will go live over the next month or so. And then the last thing from me that I just want to focus on is the NYA Network. So put your hand up if you're a member of the NYA Network. Right, the rest of you, when you go home, you need to go onto our website and you need to enrol or sign up for the NYA Network. The NYA Network is how you access all our products, services and support, and that free of charge phrase kicks in there. So if you want to download some of the old resources, the old books, the old guidance, the new stuff as well, you can go into the network and it's all there and it's free. We encourage the sector organisations and leaders to create thought pieces every month, and we publish those. There's a monthly newsletter that comes out that keeps you informed of some of the research that's going on, some of that sort of leadership thinking, and some of the stuff that we're getting up to. And everybody should join that network. The NYA doesn't have a membership. We very deliberately don't have a subscription model, because if we have a subscription model, we have to service those members, but also it means that that's the membership that we're there to support. Actually, the NYA is there for all of us. The NYA exists to support the entire youth sector. And it doesn't matter which part of the system, how far in, how deep you are, the NYA is there to support you and the work that you're doing, and we want to do more and more and more of that over the next coming years. And the way you can get involved with that, the way you can support us, is to join the NYA Network. And if you'd like to click on the top corner, you can also donate money, because that's always helpful. So I'm going to...